Before we begin the story, write in the comments where in the world you're watching from today. Luba woke up from the cold. Her old worn-out jacket no longer protected her from the autumn wind. The nights were getting colder, and sleeping in the attic of an abandoned house was becoming unbearable. Winter promised to be brutal, but Luba had no other choice. No one would give her a job. As soon as employers found out she'd recently been released from prison, doors slammed shut. Across from the attic window, a bright advertisement board glowed. In the dark, flashing colors and promises of a world of goods and comfort so close and yet so far. In the corner of the screen, a digital clock displayed the time. That was why Luba had chosen this attic to feel at least a small connection to the outside world. It now read 8:20 a.m. She fumbled through her pockets, found a few coins, just enough for a bun and a bottle of caffeine. Washing her face with bottled water, she tried to smooth her short, unruly hair. Luba always tried to look neat. She washed her clothes, cleaned her shoes. No matter how hard things were, she didn't want to lose her dignity. Near a store, by the dumpsters, Luba saw a few homeless people rummaging through trash. Is that what I'll become too? She thought bitterly. For now, she held on, surviving on odd jobs. After buying her breakfast, Luba sat on a bench with her bun and kefir, wondering where she could find work today. Maybe the janitor Kuzmith would take her on as a helper. So many leaves had fallen overnight, he couldn't manage alone. Decision made, she headed toward the crosswalk. That's when she saw it. A teenage girl on a scooter was racing toward the crosswalk, while a massive truck, horn blaring, sped straight toward her. Luba acted on instinct. She grabbed the girl's jacket and yanked her back just in time. The girl fell, and in the same moment, the truck crushed the scooter under its enormous wheels. The girl stared wide-eyed at the flattened wreckage, then at the woman who had just saved her life. Where were you going so fast? Didn't you hear the truck honking? Luba asked. No, I had my headphones in, the girl answered guiltily, her eyes filling with tears. Don't cry. Are you upset about the scooter? Luba asked. It's not the scooter, the girl sobbed. I just got scared. My dad could buy me 100 more scooters. Let's get acquainted then. I'm Luba. What's your name? Nadia. The girl sniffled. Well, Nadia, do you live far? Let me walk you home, just in case. Nadia lived just 3 blocks away. They soon reached a large house behind a tall fence. Nadia pressed the intercom, and the gate opened. A guard stood in the passageway. He let Nadia through but blocked Luba. She's with me, Roman, Nadia said firmly. The guard reluctantly stepped aside. Wait here, Nadia said to Luba and disappeared inside. Luba stood awkwardly by the gate, feeling the guard's disdainful gaze. He looked her up and down, thin frame, worn-out clothes, messy hair. She wanted to leave, but Nadia had insisted she stay. Meanwhile, in his office, Nadia's father, Viktor Nikolaevich, was frowning over some documents. He looked up when his daughter burst in, clearly distressed. She told him everything, how she was nearly hit by a truck, how a stranger saved her. Pale, Viktor hugged Nadia tightly, as if to confirm she was truly unharmed. From now on, you don't leave the house without an escort, he declared. But I'm already 11, I'm not a baby, Nadia protested. But her father was firm. He called for the guard and ordered him to bring in the woman who had saved his daughter. When Luba entered, Viktor Nikolaevich rose from behind his desk. I owe you a great debt. You saved my daughter's life. That was a heroic act. Name your price. I believe in paying what's due. Oh no, Luba replied shyly. I was just in the right place at the right time. Still, he insisted. He began asking about her, who she was, where she worked, where she lived. Luba answered honestly, not hiding her past. To her surprise, the businessman wasn't fazed. Asang, he said, better to give someone a fishing rod than a fish. My housekeeper quit last week. I'd like to offer you the job. You'll help keep the house clean and in order. You'll have a room on the first floor, meals included. Here's an advance. The rest depends on your work. Do you accept? Luba looked at the stack of bills on the desk and nodded silently, barely believing her luck. He called in Angela Petrovna, the house manager, and asked her to show Luba her room, explain the duties, and introduce her to the staff. Angela, tall and strict, brought Luba to a small but cozy room, gave her a uniform, showed her the staff shower, and emphasized that the household valued order in the kitchen. Luba was greeted warmly by the cook, Natalia Nik, who immediately set a cup of hot coffee and a plate of sandwiches before her. So, unexpectedly, Luba's new life began. Viktor Nikolaevich never told anyone about her past, but in private, he asked her to share her story. She told him everything. Orphanage, nursing school, a late night returning from classes. 2 drunk men attacked her. She resisted. One of them fell, hit his head on a rock, and died the next day. Though the investigator believed her, the court sentenced her to 4 years. With no family and no one to return to, she struggled to find work. But in this house, she was welcomed. Driver, a respectable-looking man, turned out to be a cheerful jokester. Victor's wife, Margarita, gave Luba some of her old clothes. "Take them, I never wear these." Natalia Nikolaevna called her daughter and always brought her tasty treats. Even Angela Petrovna stopped nitpicking. Nadia showed Luba her doll collection. Luba told her how, as a child, she'd sewn dresses for dolls from scraps. Nadia was delighted and even tried to sew a dress for her Barbie. Only Roman. The guard continued to look at Luba with contempt. Viktor Nikolaevich had good reason to keep Nadia under watch. His successful construction business had drawn the attention of Dmitry Malchinov, nicknamed the Moth. Once a petty thug, Malchinov had risen through the criminal ranks and now posed as a respectable businessman. He had repeatedly pressured Viktor to sell the company and now he'd turned to threats. Luba knew nothing of this. She focused on her job. On her day off, she wandered through town, bought a few things, and stopped at a cafe by the window. She sipped her coffee, watching cars and people rush by. For the first time in ages, she felt almost happy. Then her eyes landed on 2 men at a table in the corner. She recognized one instantly. That face. She'd never forget Morsachano the same thug who had attacked her that night. His brother, the one who died, had been the second attacker. Molchanov sat just 10 meters away, chatting animatedly with a man whose back was turned. Luba turned to leave quietly before he noticed her. He would never forgive her for his brother's death, even if the man had been so drunk he could barely stand. She had almost reached the door, when the other man turned to call the waiter. It was Roman, the guard from Viktor's house. Back home, Luba rushed to tell Viktor Nikolaevich what she'd seen. The businessman immediately recognized the danger. Now he knew how Molchanov had such insider knowledge. Roman had betrayed them. The next day, Viktor sent his wife and Nadia to a resort island. He gave Angela and Natalia 2 weeks' leave and went straight to the police. Detective Denis Mack listened carefully. He said there had been complaints about Malchinov, but no evidence. He suggested installing hidden cameras around the house, and so they did. A few days later, Viktor was in his office, watching the feed. There was Luba watering the plants. The house was empty. Then, something chilling. Roman entered Viktor's office. He began rummaging through papers, then pulled out a grenade. He rigged it to the desk drawer set to detonate when opened. Viktor grabbed his phone. "Luba, listen carefully, don't respond. Roman planted a grenade in my desk. Police are on their way. Act normal. Try to stall him, but don't take risks." Roman was heading down the hall. Luba blocked his path. "My mop is stuck in, you help me. It won't turn right here." "I'm busy," Roman muttered, trying to pass, but Luba kept at him, jabbing the mop, annoyed. Roman pushed her aside and headed for the exit. Then Viktor's voice boomed, "You're not going anywhere." Luba swung the mop and struck Roman on the head. Police arrived just in time. He was arrested. Luba gave her full testimony. There was enough evidence. The grenade with Roman's fingerprints. The video recordings. Roman confessed and gave a full statement about Malchinov, including the payment he'd received and the plan. The Moth was finally caught. After the case was closed, Detective Denis Maximovich called Luba and invited her for coffee. From their first meeting, he had admired her strength, her honesty, but had kept it quiet until the case was over. A few months later, he proposed. Luba, in love and happy, said yes. Denis picked her up as she loaded her belongings into his car. She said warm goodbyes to Viktor's family. Nadia made her promise to visit. Viktor, ever the businessman, handed Luba a generous bonus. "I'm happy for you," he said, "but I'll never find a housekeeper like you again." As they drove past the street where the glowing clock once hung outside the abandoned house, Luba thought maybe someone else is watching that clock right now, hoping for a miracle. I hope it comes true for them too. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe. It only takes a second, but your support is my greatest motivation to keep creating. Thank you and see you again soon.